SMS is the most powerful marketing channel.
Stronger than ever.
The best and most effective personal communication channel.
The trials and tribulations of verification.
And we don't have all the answers.
How do you ratchet up the value of every message?
Finding that happy medium is in text.
All right, welcome back. I'm Zach Kunkel, and I'm here with actually a special episode for you today. This is a recording of a live webinar that we recently hosted with our customers and community. We were joined by Swati, Senior Director of Product Management at Salesforce, specifically within the Service Cloud business unit. It was such a fantastic conversation that we wanted to give you all a chance to hear it too. So without further ado, let's dive on in. Awesome. Really excited to talk about the state of messaging in 2024 and just a little bit of background. So we at Bandwidth have been doing a similar webinar like this for the past actually 6 years, which is pretty awesome. And really the goal is to make sure that CX and product leaders alike know how to navigate the changing business messaging landscape. We know it's tough to keep up. We know that there are a lot of shifts. And we also know based on registration that a lot of people are really interested in diving in and learning more about this topic. My name is Zach Kunkel. I'm a director of product marketing here at Bandwidth, work alongside Brad Roldan, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah. Hi. Welcome, everyone. Again, my name's Brad Roldan. I've been at Bandwidth for a long time now, coming on 13 years. And Zach, I love when you talk about state of messaging, 6 years old now. You know, when we started this, it was really meant to be a platform to educate the ecosystem, the industry around, like, how do you operate effectively in this rapidly changing environment? And we never thought it would go longer than a couple of years. And here we are 6 years later, and I'm thrilled. There's so much new stuff to talk about year after year. So thanks for having me.
Love it.
Swati.
Awesome. 13 years. That's a long time. I'm so glad to have you here. And Swati, would love to have you introduce yourself. And as you do that, a lot of people are familiar with Salesforce as a brand, but you obviously hold a specific role within a specific business unit. So maybe also just introduce Service Cloud and what you guys are doing there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Zach, and thanks for having me here. Hi, everyone. I'm Swati Deo, Senior Director of Product Management at Salesforce. I manage Service Cloud's digital channels portfolio, everything from email to messaging for in-app and web, SMS, WhatsApp, Apple, Facebook Messenger, and all of the rich conversational experiences on these channels. Service Cloud, as you all know, is the number one AI CRM platform for service. Service Cloud brings every customer service and field service needs onto this Einstein One platform, which is all trusted AI and data. This platform also provides a complete 360-degree view of every customer and allows every service organization to kind of scale support across every touch point, boost service teams' productivity, and increase customer satisfaction. And all of this and AI are all safeguarded behind the Einstein Trust Layer.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Swati. We're so excited to have you on, and thanks for the quick introduction. So we've got a little bit to cover. We're at a high level. We're going to talk about how is the marketing shifting from a customer landscape, but then also from what are mobile subscribers and end users really expecting from businesses. Then we're going to take a look at all the different channel options that are out there and even discuss a little bit about how to choose which one is the best for your use case. And then we're going to talk about, if you can imagine a crystal ball, what should you be expecting in the coming year as far as changes, things that we know, things that we're anticipating, and the like. So we are at the great pleasure of working with Salesforce, and they produce a number of awesome resources each year. One of them that's really impactful, and anyone on this call would recommend that you take a look at it, but they produce pretty often a State of the Connected Customer Survey, which surveys more than 14,000 customers and businesses alike as they look at different trends that are shaping customer engagement. And so maybe I'll ask you guys, everyone, to take a step back, take a many steps back, and just ask yourself, what's the number one goal of your company or companies around the world? Obviously, we all want world domination. We want to impact the world. We want to help our customers achieve the mission we're setting out to do. but everyone is thinking about, how do I grow my business? How do I sell the products or services that are within my portfolio? If we can agree on that, the next immediate question has got to be, how am I best going to do that? And so one thing that's pretty profound that I think Salesforce has unearthed is the best way to do that isn't just by building great products and services anymore, whether it's by providing optimal experiences and removing customer frustration so that you make sure your buyers become repeat buyers and that you provide a really great customer experience. So the shift we're seeing is providing a great customer experience is no longer a nice to have, but really a need to have nowadays. As leaders on this call, if you can agree that you really want to set out and provide that optimal customer experience, we then have to ask ourselves, how will I do that? What will I do? And so what we're hearing from end customers, mobile subscribers alike, is that they're looking to provide a strategy that is omni-channel and that the digital engagements that they're facilitating should mirror as close to in-person engagements as possible. So if you look at stats like 77% of customers expect to interact with someone immediately, how are you as a business, how are you as a CX leader facilitating that over these digital channels? So CX is paramount. Your CX must be omni-channel. You see all these channel options out there. We are obviously in the presence of a Salesforce leader. And so Swati wanted to give you a question. What is interesting about the consumer preferences that you saw as this survey data came out?
Yeah, so I think the State of Connected customer report that you've linked out here has some amazing findings and stats, and you've probably covered the key ones. I actually wanted to re-emphasize a couple of more with respect to actually digital channels. So the first one I wanted to talk about was just post-pandemic, the shift to digital channels and specifically messaging is become pretty permanent. So consumers were, as you all know, already using messaging channels for personal communication, and they loved the asynchronous nature of messaging. And the expectation was that the businesses would support the flexibility of being able to communicate on their own time, on the go, 24/7. So that whole asynchronous nature, on the go, 24/7, messages on connected devices, that is what initially attracted us to these channels. And on the other hand, businesses obviously wanted to meet customers where they were. And initially, businesses also saw adopting messaging as a great opportunity to deflect calls and reduce costs through chatbots and agents just supporting multiple channels. But reducing cost wasn't the only KPI that improved. Improvements in CSAT were actually a big factor. And if I had to quote one of our customers from Brazil, he jokingly said, our telephone never rings. We get someone to test the system every month to make sure it is working because they are all on WhatsApp and they're all very happy. And to summarize what one of the sales leaders there told me is like, Swati, Brazil is all data, AI, and WhatsApp. And our own customer surveys indicate that there is, on an average, 30% increase in CSAT scores for our overall service portfolio, which includes digital channels as well. So that's one KPI. The other KPI I feel is effective outreach, whether it is a promotional campaign or a transactional notification. Open rates on SMS, WhatsApp, they're so high that it directly translates to conversions. So I think that's one consumer behavior. And then the other consumer behavior I just want to quickly touch upon is customers are expect connected experiences that cut across service, marketing, commerce, and honestly, even devices. So as a result, most of the businesses that we talk to, they are now forced to think of building these connected experiences across the customer journey. And even companies like Salesforce, we are reacting to this expectation. So just as a teaser, we are launching unified WhatsApp next month that allows a brand to build marketing journeys, commerce transactions, and service all on one number. And this is behind the scenes. This is all on our data cloud AI platform. And the brand has a complete view of that unified customer profile so that they can actually build these connected experiences. So just wanted to highlight these two amongst everything that's in that report.
Love it. It sounds like Salesforce is busy and exciting times ahead. And just want to draw out something that you were talking about, all of these these channels that you were talking about, they are the exact reason why we're here. They're happening over business messaging channels. If you're still tracking with me on this journey, we've established CX is important. We've established it's got to be omni-channel. But really, when we think about one of the most critical channels within that mix, it's got to be messaging. And so if you're joining this call, you understand that. Either you're already experiencing it today or you're looking into how can you build upon that foundation. And really what we saw within our own survey to over 1,600 customers and businesses is that people who are looking to build, and as they're looking to solve that with their product, whether that be the problem be patient engagement or marketing and sales, or maybe engaging students and teachers, customer support, whatever the case may be, we saw that messaging was the channel that delivered the highest ROI across the board. So comparing that to over-the-top applications and email, and there's probably a lot of good information there that you all could glean as you read into the report. But one of the biggest reasons why that is the case is because it's worth repeating. Messaging continues to be looked at as a critical piece because it engaged mobile subscribers like no other. It's got incredibly high open rates. It's got really quick response times. It's got high click-throughs to drive the optimal business outcome or click to action or call to action rather for those businesses. So Brad, I know that we talk about this a lot, and I know that you're seeing a trend yourself with some of our customers around the use of media in communications. So shifting from just SMS to MMS. Wanted to hear what you're seeing there.
It's pretty incredible, right? And so again, I like to remind people messaging is not new. And what we're seeing is just continued trend of consumer preferences, brands trying to match consumers, mobile subscribers on the medium that makes the most sense and gets the most engagement. And so when I look at these stats that you have up on the screen here, right, 90-second response time, the click-through rate, so people actually responding your call to action, these are enviable numbers. And we can't take these for granted, right? You can't necessarily replicate these in other channels. And when I kind of look at the trends from some of the more savvy brands who are engaging in messaging, consistently we're seeing a smart use of, not just relevant information, but the shift, as you mentioned, Zach, towards including some type of media. And it doesn't have to be super sophisticated. Even things as simple as emojis are trending up, right? So it's not just sending out your doctor appointment reminder, it's including the little doctor emoji in there. And it's, we're visual creatures. And so seeing these little pictures are just little reminders to want to engage with the brand who are sending out reminders. The other trend we see is like savvy brands who are just sending out notifications, more marketing type material, oftentimes are including stickers, animated GIFs, maybe promoting the thing that's on sale or the product that they want to draw your attention to. And these work. I mean, I know when I get these types of messages, I probably click on it just to see what's going on. I want more. And so that's the trend. That's where things are evolving in the ecosystem. It's not just a simple text channel. It's really, I would say marketers in general are trying to use this as a true multimedia channel for engagement.
Awesome. Yep. We've established messaging critical channel, but as you know, there are a lot of different kind of nuances within the channel, different options for people to leverage A2P messaging. So we're going to do a quick overview of the channels that are out there and about how businesses could be thinking about leveraging those. Just want to do a very elementary exercise first for anyone on the call, but it's an extremely important question for you all to consider. Ask yourself, as you're thinking about messaging, what is the problem you're looking to solve? Is that use case going to require responses from the customer or from the mobile subscriber or not? Is it okay to just have outbound communications, or do you want to facilitate a true conversation? The delineation is really important because whether you're sending notifications and alerts or enabling that customer conversation, this is going to lead you to channels that make the most sense for your business. So, Brad, I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of give an orientation of some of the channels that are out there regarding A2P messaging.
I do think the way Zach set it up is brilliant, right? When we think about the two most simplest use cases across the industry, is typically one-way notifications where there's no expectation of a response. And then there's the conversational type traffic where a conversation might be possible, but it's not always expected. And once you break down into one of those two categories, you kind of narrow down the field of which are the channels, right? The messaging channels that are best utilized for your use case, your customer journey, if you will, right? And so the notifications, like there's the tried and true short codes that most of us are familiar with. If you're dialing in from somewhere else in the world outside of the United States and Canada, you're probably familiar with other channels like alphanumeric SMS. It's not a thing here in North America. So if you're wondering what that is, just think of it as just one messages with a very customized sender ID. The rest of us are probably familiar with shortcodes. And then conversational, what's interesting, like when you say, well, I actually want to drive a conversational experience, the portfolio of solutions available to you is actually much broader. And then you're really coming down to the point where, like, what is the experience that you want to generate? Am I a national brand? Am I a local brand? Do I want to have locality built into this? Without going to the details of each of these channels, like I would say, right, for all of you product experts out there, your customer journey experts who are trying to design the right experience, generally your decisions come into kind of three buckets. So the first one is, right, I already mentioned, like, what's the experience? What is the expected experience that you want to deliver? The next one that you want to think about then is, well, how fast can I get to market? Your time to market. Because what's interesting is depending on the channel that you're picking will actually dictate how fast you can launch, right? And some could take as long as 2 months, like short codes. Others can be done in as little as a week if you're prepared, right? And so those are considerations you want to be thinking about. Maybe the last one, and it always comes back to this, right? We wouldn't be doing our jobs if we didn't think about the cost and the ROI, right? And so most of these channels will deliver a very high ROI, return of investment for you, but you have to pick the right channel for the customer experience, right? There's got to be a good match. So you would never want to pick a one-way type channel for a conversational experience. That would be not a great choice. So anyways, there's a big variety of channels. Maybe Swati, I'd love to kind of hear your opinion. When you look at these channels side by side, does anything stand out for you?
I think you covered it all. I think this is a great simplification of how businesses can approach their channel strategy and think in terms of notifications and conversations. I would say in my mind, all messaging channels for the most part are conversational and bidirectional. And where they really differ is technicalities around how the inbound and the outbound traffic is handled, barring alphanumeric, I would say. So example, like we offer NDLC, toll-free and shortcodes, and they are all bidirectional, conversational. So depending on the use case, and you touched upon all of the reasons, the required throughput, cost, regulatory considerations, and so on, customers can choose the right SMS number for their notifications or conversations. And similarly, OTTs, for most OTT ecosystems, I would say notifications or business-initiated messages are kind of supported. Obviously, there are guardrails. WhatsApp templates allow you to send one-way outbound notifications, which can become conversational if a customer chooses to respond to it. So I think as a framework, I think this is a great way to look at it. So yes.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks, Swati. Maybe, as we think about all of these, if, I'm thinking, why don't we do an unscientific poll? I'd love to ask the audience, like when you look at all these channels, and by the way, we asked this question to 1,600 of your peers and colleagues across the ecosystem. So we're actually going to compare notes later. But with this group here, let's do a quick unscientific experiment. When you think about the investments that you want to make in 2024, right? Where do you want to focus your product experience for messaging, your customer journey, customer experience? Where does your mind go to? Do you think about 10DLC, right? These are 10-digit long code, local phone numbers. Do you think about toll-free? Do you think about short codes? If you're outside the US, do you think about alphanumeric? In certain parts of the world, maybe you're thinking about OTT messaging, and that's WhatsApp, Line, Viber, Apple Business Chat. I think I hit most of the big ones there. Go ahead and vote. We're gonna give a little bit of time for everyone to click in their votes and see what the results are. I think it's actually really interesting to see how this has come out. But before I say anything, Swati, does anything stand out for you in these results?
No, and I'm assuming folks on the call are mainly US based. So I think SMS continues to be the dominant channel in the US. So not surprising, 10DLC is definitely the most popular answer here. So I think it is pretty aligned.
Yeah. Zach, any standouts for you here?
Yeah, I mean, just Swati said it well, but the majority of the spend or the majority of planned investments being in 10DLC compared to that of toll-free and short codes, would be interested to understand, is that because locality is so important? Is that because time to market is really important? But it aligns pretty well with what we saw in the survey ourselves.
Yeah. That's super interesting just for side by side. So everyone kind of take a mental picture of these results. And why don't we see what a larger survey resulted in, if we can pull that up. And interestingly, the order is almost the same, not quite. In a broader survey across North America, what was interesting is the majority of respondents came back and said 10DLC is actually top of mind. Unfortunately, what we can't tell you, because we can't have a two-way dialogue during a survey, it could be because businesses are trying to modernize, right, communications and understand the voice channel is maybe not as effective as it used to be. There's time to market, Zach brought up. There's the simplicity of 10DLC. And so that might be what's driving the interest in 10DLC right now. Maybe more interesting, though, is there is no real second, third place here. What was interesting is that when you look at alphanumeric, toll-free, and short codes, it's generally a tie. And so 10DLC generating the most interest right now across the marketplace, but there is high interest in the other channels, almost an equal amount of interest. What was interesting also is, like, with our group here, the live webinar, where there's actually a higher interest in OTTs. And what this probably doesn't reflect, and Swati, you called it out, is if we ran this exact same survey in different regions of the world, we probably would expect the order to be flip-flopped, right? We'd probably expect OTTs to be much higher. 10DLC would even show up as an option because it's not a thing in most countries. So if you want the details behind these, love for you to go and check out the State of Messaging ebook, and you can get more details. But anyways, thank you for participating in our unscientific survey here. But what I love about it is consistently, at least with the audience that we're talking to, 10DLC seems to be high interest to most people here. Zach, I'll hand this over to you.
So we've talked about number of channels. We've established that customer experience is super important. It's got to be omni-channel. But we wanted to start to get the creative juices flowing and share some examples from Bandwidth's point of view, but then also from Salesforce's point of view about how are people actually putting A2P messaging into practice. So ServiceTitan, we're going to look at a use case from them. They're an awesome customer of ours. If you're not familiar with them, they provide a full portfolio of solutions to residential and commercial contractors so that they can manage and grow their own business, but also communicate with their customers, right? So put that into a real life example. Think about your local plumbing company. They consistently receive phone calls. They're managing technicians out in the field. They're dispatching folks to actually go solve those needs. ServiceTitan provides a platform that can help that local plumbing company do all that, right? So a core part of ServiceTitan's offering is just that, the ability to communicate with customers over messaging. So the use case that I've kind of mapped out on this screen, it starts with top left. It starts with a customer who is calling in. Maybe they have a problem that they need answered, addressed. That person, the receptionist or whoever, is going to jot down some notes about what the problem is, where is the address, what day works best for Joe to come out and take a look. And then once that is all done and documented, ServiceTitan actually sends an automated text message afterwards that says when your appointment is scheduled. And so as that date comes nearer, this use case should be very familiar. You're going to get automated appointment reminders so that folks are aware, hey, Joe actually is coming out today. And if that time doesn't work for you, you can reschedule or cancel. And that allows that plumbing company to save time and money because they don't want to dispatch a technician that comes out and you're not actually there or ready to answer the doorbell. That costs them money. That is not a good customer experience for you. So they're making sure that you're aware of that. But also something that's really cool that ServiceTitan is doing, and I've actually experienced this as a end receiver of this value, is they send technician bios and pictures ahead of time so that you can see exactly what Joe looks like, who Joe is, so that maybe you aren't going to be the one answering the door. Maybe it's your wife or your partner or your spouse, and they want to know exactly who it is. So there's some security. There's some actual understanding of who's going to be there.
Zach, I love that. Like, I mean, when we think about unique use cases in the messaging ecosystem, this moves way beyond just basic notifications, right? This is not just notifications. This is like building customer trust, to your example. And I love the idea that I can actually see a photo of the technician that's going to come and knock on my door. And it's such a simple thing to do. And yet the return of value in terms of trust with the company I'm doing business with just shoots through the roof for me. So I love this as a unique example of simple things we can all be doing to build trust with our customers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's awesome. And having been the benefactor of it, hugely appreciative of people actually sending those along. Last thing I'll point out about ServiceTitan's use cases, say in that plumbing example, maybe you need to have your dog out of the house or something like that. What ServiceTitan does is it facilitates the ability for conversations to happen bidirectionally. It's not just the appointment reminder and there's no conversation that could happen. There might be requests made of you, and then you as the end customer can send questions back. Hey, do I need to have the dog out of the house or not? And so it facilitates that sort of interaction. Just a use case, just an example to get the juices flowing about how SMS and MMS could be used for your business. But Swati, going to turn it over to you. I know that Salesforce is working with a lot of different types of industries and customers. So is Bandwidth, but you've got some great slides to talk about common use cases across different geographies, different channels, different industries. So going to turn it over to you for the next few slides to talk through that.
Yeah. So I'm going to just very high level cover some of the use cases here. I would say depending on the capabilities these channels support and the verticals, some channels might be more preferable than the others for certain use cases. But for the most part, the use cases themselves aren't necessarily very different across channels. They're pretty much the same. And I think what is important is customers expect a consistent and a connected experience across all of these channels. Now, what you see here on the slide are some examples of how we see our customers using messaging, for example, in retail, travel, and hospitality. Some of the more common use cases in, say, retail service are around store locations, order status, returns exchanges, and product availability. And a lot of our customers essentially just automate the most commonly asked questions through bots by leveraging the data from the CRM. And there is obviously always an escalation path to an agent. One example I can share, I'm working with a couple of retail customers right now that are implementing some very advanced experiences with Apple Messages and leveraging Apple's native support for authentication, forms, carousels, and the likes. So everything going beyond text. And the use cases are pretty standard, but where it starts differing based on the channels is how these use cases are implemented, and the experiences on some of these channels is I would say richer compared to, SMS. Similarly, if you just want to go to the next slide. So similarly, we see messaging being used across many other verticals, FinServ, automotive, and media. And this is not a comprehensive list by any means. And I won't even get into all of the details of these use cases. But one thing I wanted to mention here was that geography actually plays an important role. So whether it is due to customer preferences, cultural differences, technology, regulations, name it, the use cases vary across some of these regions. So I spent some time with our sales teams and customers in India and Brazil last year. And some of the use cases were very, very unique to essentially that region. So, for example, in India, where a single conversation can have multiple languages, whether it is messaging or voice. Now, the challenges around transcribing, challenges around capturing the history, it's very, very unique to that particular region. Localization is another big ask from practically all customers in our international markets, I would say. And if I had to share some funny examples, like, some of my WhatsApp deals were literally blocked on lack of support for audio files, which obviously we fixed. But these are some behaviors that you don't necessarily see in the US market, but these can be deal blockers. And outside of that, I also deal with a lot of compliance, regulatory, GDPR kind of use cases from regions where I would say data privacy is much more stringent, especially our EMEA customers. So I wanted to cover one customer story, Brad, here. And this is, again, to make the point on connected channel experiences that I made earlier. So this is a great success story of one of our top customers, Gucci. Gucci, as all of you know, it's a luxury brand, fashion brand in clothing, handbags, cosmetics, and much more. And here, Gucci's global client service center uses generative AI to create conversational replies that advisors can use to provide the on-brand luxury customer experiences across all of these channels. Now, as a backstory, Gucci was one of the first brands in the luxury industry to run a GPT-integrated Service Cloud pilot on one of the most popular channels, WhatsApp. And the AI tool in this case suggested service replies that enhanced the conversational capabilities of every Gucci advisor and empowered them with a very distinct Guccified tone of voice to use with their clients. And the reason I'm highlighting this is because this is as much a story of connected experiences on digital channels like WhatsApp. Honestly, this is channel agnostic as it is about generative AI and service.
Yeah. If you're looking for inspiration for use cases, I mean, these slides are a phenomenal starting point, but, when you bring the character out in your business, right, and customer, this is like truly a joyful customer journey. If you're looking for inspiration, that I'll just point back to the podcast series and actually episode 4 with our host Zach, actually talking about other unique use cases across the industry. You'll hear there's actually a bunch of commonality that you're going to hear, like everything from shopping cart abandonment and handmade beds, car recalls, education sector and snow days. Like, they all have something in common. They have important things they want to get out to their mobile subscribers, and the way they do it through messaging is unique and actually I think can be replicated for most businesses. So it's worth listening to. So when we think about the big changes in our industry, right? I kind of opened up earlier about it's a phenomenal. We're 6 years into these sort of messaging, and it's shocking how much change happens year over year. Maybe the biggest news story that came out in the less than 6 months ago was Apple's announcement of RCS. And so if you're wondering, what is RCS? Why should I care? Well, I'll just read this statement out because this is potentially changing, it's industry changing. And so later that next year, 2024, so this is a statement made in late 2023, we'll be adding support for RCS Universal Profile, the standard as currently published by the GSMA. We believe RCS Universal Profile will offer better interoperability experience when compared to SMS or MMS. This will work alongside iMessage, which will continue to be the best and most secure messaging experience for Apple users. Okay, why should you care? For those of you that don't know, RCS is intended to be the next generation carrier replacement for messaging. It will eventually replace, if we get enough industry adoption around the world, it will eventually replace SMS and MMS. In fact, what the intent of RCS was to bring an OTT, like kind of a WhatsApp, Apple Business Chat-like experience straight into the native messaging apps that we all have on our phones. And the goal has been to keep the standard open so that it can work on any handset without an app download. And that is the killer app if you think about it. If I can roll out a better experience to every handset in the world without requiring that mobile subscriber to download my mobile app, that's a win for everybody. there's terms that you're going to hear. So RCS stands for Rich Communication Services, or you might hear Rich Communication Suite. The A to P version of it, the business messaging, is called RBM, RCS Business Messaging. And the reason why we care about Apple is because historically, Tim Cook famously said at a press conference, like, Apple was absolutely against supporting RCS. It just was not part of their strategy. And then more recently, they decided they will embrace the standard. So what this means is, in parts of the world where Apple has high penetration rate, we now have both Android and iOS handsets that will be capable of supporting this new standard. And I think everyone understands when you only have half of the handsets in the world, Android handsets supporting standard, it's hard to get excited. It's hard to build momentum. But now when you have all major handsets in the world that will support this new standard, it actually represents a leap in positive experience for every mobile subscriber. There are some stats. I think the takeaway for you, though, as product leaders, customer experience leaders, is that you are not missing out today. If you don't have RCS as part of your strategy today, you're okay. It is something that you need to be thinking about in 2025, right? Maybe 2024 is the year you start thinking about it, making plans, right? 2025, you might dip your toes into it and really start running some market experiments, but it's going to take time. Handset adoption, right? The rate of adoption for a new mobile operating system to take hold within the ecosystem is not overnight. Despite what everyone wants to believe, it actually takes months for a new mobile operating system to roll out, hit every handset, and then for users to start reaping the benefits of those upgrades. And so none of you should feel like this is like, I have to solve it in the next 3 to 6 weeks. That's not what we're here to say. But it's something you just want to be thinking about. Anyways, it's a massive change to the industry. I think it's a positive change for the industry, and we will absolutely be talking more about this in the months to come. Okay, why don't we move on? I think we're going to kind of move ahead to industry trends, things to be looking out for. So I already mentioned RCS. There's for all of our poll respondents who said, 10DLC is like really high interest level right now. There's things that you need to be thinking about right now. This is the 3 to 6 week or 3 to 6 month problem you should be thinking about. Is there are active changes in the industry around toll-free messaging and 10DLC messaging where you can expect increased policy enforcement. So to start a campaign, right, to start your messaging campaign with a short code requires a long process. There's a campaign brief, there's a whole approval process, and then you can start sending messages, and typically it can take weeks to get done. We're starting to see that happen. In fact, we've already seen it happen with toll-free. In 2023, there's a date we got to fix here, is actually January 31st, 24, when things change. But in 2023, you could provision a toll-free number, and then you could submit that phone number with your campaign brief for verification, and it would go into an intermediate stage called pending. And during the pending period, or I would call it like a probation period, you could actually send some traffic. Well, that actually ended just this past January. And so now with toll-free phone numbers, you have to submit your campaign. You have to get full verification on that toll-free number before you can send traffic. So just like short codes, it's very binary. Just because you got the number doesn't mean you can start sending traffic. 10DLC is starting to move in that same direction. And so while you might enjoy a little bit of a grace period, the industry is rapidly bringing everything into alignment. And so what you experience with short codes, what you experience with toll-free, you will start to see the exact same experience, if you haven't already, with 10DLC, to the point where you must pre-register your campaigns, get everything approved before you can send traffic. For those of you that are knee-deep in 10DLC already, you may have noticed it's a maturing channel. And it's actually kind of hard to switch providers when maybe your current provider is not meeting your needs and you need a better or different partner. The industry recognizes that campaigns are difficult to move across providers. And so there is industry effort to make campaign migrations easier, right? So for those of you that might be frustrated, like, oh my gosh, I got thousands of campaigns that I've registered and there's a real material cost associated with that. It's actually expensive for me to go to a new provider because I have to re-register and re-incur all those fees. The industry is working to kind of ease that path for all of us and make 10DLC much more portable across providers. So that's something to look out for. I think it's good news. These are just kind of gotchas that you want to be thinking about in the next, like I said, 3 to 6 months. Swati, I'd love to turn this over to you because I think maybe you have some more exciting stuff to talk about and the trends that you're seeing in the industry.
So I'll probably just cover this pretty broad for the support industry overall. So just as a background, obviously, as everyone knows, customer service is at the core of customer experience, and arguably it has seen the most change and I would say elevated importance over the past few years than any other function. So I think 2020 was the inflection point for service organizations. Pandemic, as all of you know, accelerated digitization and digital transformation by several years. So post-pandemic, digital channels, as I said earlier, they have become a permanent feature in every enterprise's portfolio. Effort to build connected experiences is already underway. And service organizations are also focused on employee experience, employee retention, as it directly impacts customer experience. In addition, there was something big that happened last year, and that was Gen AI. So now as we look into 2024, there are few themes I would say that are emerging. The first one, I would say service organizations are taking a closer look at their channel strategies, making sure they meet customers where they are. What that means is telephony, email, they'll all continue to be a key part of the channel mix, but digital channels, everything from self-service customer portals, apps, social media, VRA, and especially messaging will continue to grow in 20. The second insight we are getting from our own surveys is service organizations are also pivoting from cost cutting to revenue generation. So and this is not new, we've been talking about this for a few years now, but the real reason that this will start playing out in 2024 is, again, Gen AI. As more simple service use cases are automated with Gen AI, the service teams will have more time to engage with customers in more meaningful ways, in higher value ways, and they could become the human face for pre-purchase, purchase, and post-purchase experiences, making true connected experiences an actual reality. And the Ruchi example that I shared earlier is an example of how service organizations that strive for excellent customer satisfaction might actually start pivoting to upskilling of service professionals and pursuing more revenue generation opportunities. The last point I wanted to make was, while all of this is great, service organizations becoming the new growth engine, delivering connected experiences, all of that, that's a great objective, but that also comes with a cost. And that will result in uptick in the service volumes, which also means there are a lot of questions to be answered. Will service budgets continue to increase to keep pace with this customer demand? Or how soon will Gen AI actually result in productivity gains for organizations? And how will organizations actually approach upskilling of current service teams? So I don't think we have all of the answers, but I think this will all start playing out in 2024.
Yeah, these are big topics, Swati. I think it might be helpful if we could hear from you how Salesforce is leveraging generative AI for omni-channel solutions.
Yeah. So I'll again answer this very broadly. First of all, Salesforce has been investing in AI for the last 10 plus years. Salesforce was the first to market with AI for CRM. And as I've said before, trust is our core value. We also have a collection of safety guardrails, if you will, that we call Einstein Trust Layer. And our Einstein One platform, the data cloud platform, it allows customers to essentially connect and harmonize all of their CRM data from applications like service, sales, marketing, and all of the external data in one place, and then use that data to provide not just predictive, but generative experiences that are embedded in a user's workflow. And I'll show you one example to actually illustrate what that means. So this is one example to illustrate this in context of digital channels and messaging. So this is a service replies, which I referred in my earlier example with Gucci. We launched this feature last year, and this has provided a lot of productivity gains for many of the customers. And how it actually works is here Einstein is suggesting personalized responses based on the conversation that is happening in chat. And the agent can edit the response before sending. And in this case, the chat can be SMS, it can be WhatsApp, it can be any channel. This feature as such is channel agnostic. And if I had to summarize all of this, it is really messaging is becoming the playground for everything AI. And these generative experiences are embedded in the agent's workflow. So depending on who they personalize, they are embedded very much in the workflow. And then there is always a human in the loop, given Gen AI is just so new. And then these experiences are also all grounded in companies' own trusted data. So those are the 4 callouts, I would say, in terms of summarizing this experience. And there is one more slide. I know we are close to upon time. So I just wanted to leave you with this slide here. And this is really just to say service is one of the most compelling use cases for generative AI. And this has the potential to completely revolutionize how companies interact with their customers. So what you just saw was one example. Service replies is just one example or one of the many experiences that we are launching using Gen AI that will increase the productivity of agents, mobile workers, and supervisors. And there are other capabilities like conversation summary that we went live with, which kind of summarizes the entire conversation for an agent in any chat, increasing again the productivity of an agent. The last thing I just wanted to quickly mention before I hand it over back to you is co-pilots. And co-pilots for agents, supervisor, mobile workers, and even end customers, they are coming soon. And these co-pilots will be running on messaging channels or a messaging medium. In some simple words, think of this as bots 2.0 with Gen AI. And I feel messaging will continue to be the primary medium for delivering these Gen AI innovations in the future as well. Back to you.
Phenomenal. Thank you for the overview, Swati. That was really informative. I can't wait to see how this I appreciate you sharing the roadmap, and I can't wait to see this hit the marketplace. Zach, take us out.
Yeah, I definitely can. So I know that we saw a few questions coming in. We're obviously 3 minutes close to the top of the hour. For anyone who does have a question, and if we don't get to you, we will make sure to follow up with you or have a bandwidth representative follow up. So I know that Kaylee, do you want to ask maybe two, 3 questions depending on time?
Yeah, really quickly before we get into much of the content questions, we had a few come in about the podcast that we brought up at the top of the call and our State of Messaging website. So Zach, if you want to maybe give another plug for that for anyone who is joining a little bit after our first few minutes.
Yeah, happy to. So JD, I know you're on the back end. Would you mind flipping through all the way back to the second slide, and then maybe we can put up the QR code again? So in case anyone does want to tap in, subscribe to the podcast, it is called State of Business Texting. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Apple Music, anywhere that you get your podcasts. And then also if you scan this QR code, it should take you to a microsite where you can download the actual PDF of the ebook, engage in all the awesome content that we spent some time creating. And yeah, we're excited to hear what your thoughts are. I'm excited to continue doing this even next year.
Great. Thanks, Zach. So getting into maybe 1 or 2 questions. First of all, a question around toll-free verification. Just to summarize it quickly, do we have any tools or suggested resources to facilitate the verification of toll-free numbers?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So bandwidth, like our goal is to help our customers operate at very high volume and scale. And make that as simple as possible. And actually verification and campaign registrations is a pretty arduous process. And so we've actually invested in tools that allow that level of automation. So we absolutely have APIs. A lot of our customers are already leveraging our toll-free verification APIs to kind of fast track their process into getting online, submitting all the right information, and then being able to send traffic once the approvals are done. So toll-free verification API, 100% ready for you to use. If you're a bandwidth customer, just ask your account rep about it.
And just one question to close us out here. I'll direct this to you, Swati. Anything you want to weigh in on when it comes to Salesforce's thoughts on RCS and kind of the future of that channel for the next year?
Yeah, so I think Apple's decision to support RCS late last year has a lot of implications on where we go from here. I think, Brad, you covered this in detail. I agree with everything that you covered. I think it is wait and watch. 2024 is wait and watch for us as well. I think new experiences will come out in 2024. So let's wait and watch what Apple launches, how all of this comes together. And I think for Salesforce, I think we'll start firming up our plans end of this year, beginning 2025. So I think it really aligns well with everything that you said, Brad.
It's exciting times. I like every year I keep wondering what's new, and stuff just kind of keeps happening, right? The industry keeps changing. So this is a big one for us.
So I'm going to close us out here with just a big thank you to all of our presenters for joining us today and taking time out of your busy schedules. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Awesome. I love what Swati had to say about all that Salesforce is doing around generative AI, how they're looking at omni-channel customer preferences and really building products in market to solve those needs. And then also just the back and forth conversation that we got to have around some of the unforeseen things around RCS and the like. So if you've still got questions, be sure to check out all of our State of Messaging report at stateofmessaging.com. You can also learn more about Bandwidth's messaging API and our products at bandwidth.com/messaging. Right now, I'm personally really excited about the Texties, the awards for excellence in messaging. Details can be found at bandwidth.com/Texties. That is TEXTIES. And if you're listening to this later, after the fact, there are going to be winning case studies all posted on stateofmessaging.com. So again, I'm Zach Kunkel. Thank you so much for joining me today, and be sure to listen to our next episode coming soon.